as part of our research, we've been doing a lot of empirical research in comparative jurisdictions. So we kind of visited an array of university and educational makerspaces in Canada and the United States. We've had a student looking at South America and some of the makerspaces there. I did a lot of empirical research in the European Union, in Austria and the Netherlands and Germany and Portugal. I also did some empirical research in Ireland and Northern Ireland and in the United Kingdom and Switzerland. We had hoped to do some empirical research in New Zealand, but that was somewhat frustrated by the COVID outbreak. But as part of this event, we've been kind of keen to include some other comparative perspectives on makerspaces. And there's been a very dynamic open air group, which has networked an array of different makerspaces throughout a number of different African countries. And the very energetic Mia Van Zyl is the co-founder of the TMG Makerspace at WITS University in Johannesburg. And that kind of plays a really important role in bridging the university to the technology community, but also to the wider population. They do a lot of schools work and educational work. They've also had to focus upon questions of sustainable development, and they have also had to respond to the various different waves of the COVID crisis hitting South Africa as well. I think we have about 40 minutes of the discussion with Mia, but today we're going to show a smaller portion of that. And once we have time to edit that up, we might have edited versions of both the presentation and the Q&A that I did with Mia. But I think it kind of provides a really interesting counterpoint to how makerspaces can play different sorts of roles in different institutions across the world.
Wonderful. Good morning or good day, depending on the time of day it is in Australia where you're having the conference. My name is Mia Van Zyl. I am a co-manager at the TMG Makerspace in Johannesburg in South Africa. The TMG Makerspace is hosted within a digital innovation precinct called Tshimologong Precinct in Braamfontein in the Johannesburg CBD. Tshimologong means in the beginning, so it's a place of new digital beginnings. Tshimologong Precinct exists to create and build world-class African digital entrepreneurs. And the Makerspace is the hardware development side of the digital innovation precinct. We are within the WITS University ecosystem, but also function as a separate entity so that people may have more easy access to Tshimologong Precinct and the different business units within the incubator, whereas sometimes a university campus may be not as easy to access and may be perceived to be exclusive. So yeah, that's who I am and where I function. We're a group and a team of digital tech and creative entrepreneurs who work as a collective, as I said, as the hardware development arm of Tshimologong Precinct. And the different, I'll take you through the visuals of who we are and who our community is and how we work. But as I said, focused on digital innovation, so digital tech and creative tech. We work as a collective who serve the precinct with our facilitation skills in skills development, in tech immersions, in pre-incubation services. And the other business units in Tshimologong Precinct is then software development, the app factory, animation studio, which is part of digital skills. There's the Digital Skills Academy, as well as then the Digital Content Hub. So that in a nutshell is who we are. Let me share my screen and show you who we are. Great. Let me just close that. Can you see my screen? Great. As I said, we are TMG Makerspace, which stands for Tshimologong Makers Group, and we're part of Tshimologong Digital Innovation Precinct. You'll find us on social media under TMG Makerspace and also Tshimologong Precinct. It's quite a mouthful, So that's why we abbreviated it to TMG, because people have a tough time with Tshimologong. As I said before, we are a collective of digital tech and creative entrepreneurs, and we work as a collective. And the technologies that we house within the makerspace, in our space: 3D printing, laser cutting, design for digital fabrication, Internet of Things, electronics and robotics, augmented reality, virtual reality. More recently, we've incorporated artificial intelligence, machine learning, and data science as it overlaps with hardware development. And of course, the production management that goes with digital fabrication, skills development workshops, and or immersions for corporates or academia. Let me take you through some of our offerings. Our skills development workshop, our digital fabrication workshops, is our main mandate as the makerspace to activate the talents of our collective as facilitators of the technologies that they are experts in. So these are just some of the posters of some of our recent workshop. Mbangiso Babaso on the left hand is the founder of Sisanda Tech. Sisanda Tech uses augmented reality for educational purposes. So they have apps in the App Store and some products like an AR augmented t-shirt, an AR augmented cube that then comes to life to bring science and biology, natural sciences content to life for those who don't have access to an actual science lab in their space. On the other poster, you see Alex, one of our co-managers in the space, and also our fabrication manager. Alex really looks after most everything in terms of the hardware side of things, and also the training in terms of the machinery in our makerspace. And we love when there's a beautiful overlap between the digital fabrication, the commercial services that we have, but also then teaching it as a skill and or training our interns to then be able to create their own micro enterprises. IoT, just a few visuals from some of our workshops. We're a collective in the makerspace of roughly 12 entrepreneurs. When everyone's here, interns, senior makers, and the managers, we're about 20. Now during COVID, there's less of us who work from the space. Many people have had to kind of set up their makerspace or their lab back home, and they work remotely. But we have had the privilege to make sure that we get back to the space and just work in a safe and socially distanced way, so that we can get back to being with our laser cutters and 3D printers and electronics. This was one of our IoT workshops, 3D printing workshop, laser cutting workshop. So our skills development approach, was a specific program to disadvantaged youth. The skills development approach from our makerspace side is very much a hands-on make while you learn, or learn by making approach, so that the participants or the attendees get to get hands-on with the technology right from the word go. It's to us, we've developed our skill development programs from single Saturdays to a series of 4 Saturdays, and we now aim to turn that into longer courses. As we get feedback from the participants and attendees who become part of our community, we need to make sure that what they're learning is actually helping them, and they can do something with that improves their quality of life and or helps them maintain a good quality of life. So it's important that we find out what has impact, what's working, what can they go do with it when they leave our space. And that's also why we prefer to, as far as possible, work actually right through the makerspace, work in a open source way and with open source software, so that there's no barrier to the learning, that you can only access what we have here in our space, but then when you go back to your home or school or township, you now no longer have access to the skills or the software that you learned from our space. That's in a nutshell why we want to work open source, and it's also just what is most accessible and easy for our community to get hold of, to use, and also to share with one another. Makeathons and hackathons have become quite prominent in the last year or so in our makerspace. We've been participants to various other makeathons and hackathons with other makerspaces around the country. And with our development as a space within the Digital Innovation Precinct, we've helped with some amazing projects in terms of makeathons and hackathons. Our first event last year back in the physical space after lockdown was this UNDP and Hackster.io Makeathon for COVID inventions. And this was a selection of innovations that came from the Global Innovation Challenge 2020 in Singapore. And a selection of those innovations had been chosen for Africa, and different makerspaces around Africa then got to rebuild those, repurpose, hack them, and improve them for our local conditions. It was quite daunting to do this as a first event back at the precinct in September, seeing as we had to then navigate what it means to work together physically again under COVID, whereas we had some months where everyone was working remotely, and it was only a small team of fabricators that had the necessary permit to work physically. We were excited about the contactless thermometers, face mask detection using AI, hand sanitizer dispensers, etc., that we got to create during this event, with amazing talent from around South Africa, and supported, like I said, by the precinct, by UNDP, and hardware donated by Hackster.io. And now the device that you see at the bottom, his name is Tabang. So he's a contactless thermometer that we now use at the precinct, from testing the devices in the field after creating it at the event. Now we found use cases and clients for those devices. An event that happened in December was the SDG challenge, this Sustainable Development Goals challenge, supported by the French Institute. And this brought together a group of South African makers and innovators, as well as makers and innovators from 8 different makerspaces around Africa. And this was a hybrid event, in person and remotely, using Discord and whichever platform we could find each other on, and have connectivity and chat to one another across Africa about different social development goal solutions that the teams were coming up with. It was fantastic to see how vibrant the African maker movement is, and the amazing social innovations and tech for good innovations coming out of spaces such as ours, and then also around Africa, and with the support of the French. We loved this event. It was good fun. One thing that really came to the fore quite strongly last year during lockdown was the maker movement around South Africa's role in helping with the COVID response. As I said, as soon as lockdown was announced in South Africa in March 2020, Alex made sure that we applied and got our essential services certificate, so that the fabrication team could get back into the space and were allowed to work, so that they could work on creating face shields, respirators, masks, whatever the need was. And it started very locally. What was the need right here in our neighborhood in Braamfontein? So Alex and his intern team worked on creating face shields, and he adapted an open source respirator, as you can see. And that was donated to police stations, clinics, and businesses around Braamfontein. And then also in the neighborhoods where our interns live, we extended the help also to those neighborhoods. It really started with the maker movement around the world actually coming together on electronic platforms and saying, what can we do now that everyone's stuck at home? And it started with a big movement for those with 3D printers to create the visor holders for face shields, and those with laser cutters to laser cut the actual shields. And from there, it went through various iterations of which kind of platform the South Africans met on, who was busy with what kind of resources could we find, what were we battling with to find, and then also to coordinate the effort so that there wasn't panic making. People weren't just making for making's sake, but we had to figure out who's making what is needed, who's distributing, who can help with distribution, where do we get materials when we're stuck with suppliers being closed, etc. So that was a massive push from the Makerspaces side during the lockdown period last year. Like I said, spearheaded by Alex, our fabrication manager. And we were thankful that that was also a way that we could bring our interns back to work and get them earning again. As you see on the screen, there's some of the very funky colored respirators that we create in our makerspace. It turned into a whole range of PPE equipment and accessories available to whoever needed. From what we were doing then, WITS University became aware of the work we're doing here, and they supported us with a bigger laser cutter and also access to materials so that we could make, this was in conjunction with a funder from the mining industry, we could make thousands of face shields rather than just hundreds. And that became a big project for the duration, like the middle of last year, until we could get back into the space and resume other work, such as skills development and immersions, even though that had to be online or hybrid. Something that really helped us solidify how we worked as a community when the Makerspace was still its own entity. We were called the DIZ before, Digital Innovation Zone, part of the Innovation Precinct, but not integrated into the precinct 2016, 17, around there. And what we found, also learning from other makerspaces in the country, we're all part of a collective called South African Maker Collective, in an informally grouped community of makerspaces around the country that learn from one another, help one another, send work each other's way. And what we really learned from Steve Gray from Makerspace in Durban was community building was at the heart. We knew it, but we didn't know it was as integral as it became known when we integrated with the Innovation Precinct, is that community building really is at the heart of what a makerspace does. And we turned that into monthly open evenings or tech meetups, where people could just come for an informal evening of getting to know the precinct, getting to know the makers, other makers getting to know us, and also us chatting about who's doing what in our community, who has which need, and how could we support one another, what projects were happening, what could we learn from industry, and who can we bring from industry to teach us. So these became quite a staple in our first 2 years, our monthly tech meetup, which was then themed either the industry of 3D printing or AR and VR, mixed realities, sustainable energy, depending what need came up from the community and also where we had support from industry. Our digital tech immersions became a way of extending our business model, and understanding that the funded skills development work that we were doing also needed a commercial reason for being, or a commercial support arm. So our digital tech immersions for corporates and academia became quite an important part of our offering pre-lockdown, where we could host managerial teams, companies, executive education groups. We could host them in our space and take them through very experiential learning sessions in terms of what's happening in the industry, what is this whole 4IR or fourth industrial revolution thing that everyone's talking about, what does it mean for me as an employee of an insurance company or an exec ed student from WITS Business School, what does it mean for me, and how do I integrate what's happening in this revolution and disruption in a very hands-on way, meet other entrepreneurs doing 4IR rather than just talking about this cliche and talking very high level and in an abstract fashion about it, but to meet entrepreneurs doing it, then learn about the context of 4IR as it expresses itself here in South Africa, in Johannesburg right now, and then get taught by one of our entrepreneurs to do something quite hands-on. Here's one of our members, Nkululeko Tunsi, teaching a group of executives how to build an IoT lamp, for instance. So one could say executive team building, executive training, corporate immersions. But we found that this was a great tool to support our earning potential as an entity and as the group of entrepreneurial experts, and also extend our range of showing people the reality, the nitty gritty of the 4IR rather than just the intellectual talk about the fourth industrial revolution. This was extended through our Digital Skills Academy also to programs such as Coder Dojo, an hour of code, where we brought together a group of youth as well to be exposed to a day of 3D printing, augmented reality in the form of a coloring in exercise, building an accessible electronics, we call it a doodle bot. So a small robot with markers that once you connect the battery, kind of runs around on the table and or whatever surface you leave it on. So that's kind of our, sometimes I joke about our gateway drugs when we start with very playful activities to get people to not fear technology and to see that technology is for everyone. And we are part of the fourth industrial revolution. It's not for other people with degrees or papers or some kind of something that we don't have. Accessibility and lowering the barrier of entry into the digital economy is really important for our space and our community. Residencies was a natural outflow of what we do with partnerships such as Red Bull Basement and Red Bull University. We would host innovators for a month or 2 months to come and work on a specific project that they entered into an innovation competition such as Red Bull Basement. And then our space being the host in terms of giving them the space, the access to resources, machinery, and then the community who knows how to use that and can act as mentors. We love doing our residencies. Again, this was pre-COVID. We also fulfill that function for our in-house innovation, tech, and digital art festival that's called the Fakugezi Festival that happens annually. That was kind of a solidifying factor early on in me getting involved with this precinct, is that Fakugezi Festival used me as a creative project manager to host our Maker Market Hack Day, which happens annually, which is where we bring makers from all around the country, put them in a public square and invite people to come and interact with whatever activity makers would like to showcase. And through that, I got to know the precinct and worked on a voluntary basis, then on a per project basis, and then actually realized that this is the type of community where I feel I can make a difference. And I can invest my coordination, management skills, and community building skills. So that's how I got to be, as a creative and a non-techie, part of a digital innovation makerspace. As I mentioned earlier, we are part of the South African Maker Collective. And as I said, that's a informal, semi-formal grouping of makerspaces around the country who put heads together on the strategic direction for the country's spaces, how we can support one another, sending work each other's way if it's in different provinces, and also trying to come together and do bigger work that is beyond just one makerspace. These are visuals from that very market hack day that I was telling you about, the Fakagezi Festival, where we come together to do crazy, zany, fun activities such as drawing with the doodle bots, building radio-controlled cars, building robot arms that write the time, turning the festival pass into a music player. Any which way one can use creativity, creative ability, and just a very keen community to spark that interest in people in digital tech and what that might mean. Yeah, so that's us in a nutshell. We are a group of three. It's Mia, Alex, and Nelson who co-manage the space. And as I said, we're then a collective of founding members. And we're very excited that in the time that we've grown formalized the Makerspace from the informal partner it was to the precinct some years ago through our initial founders in augmented and virtual reality who have moved on and commercialized. It's wonderful that we're now, there's a management team, a team of really skilled and experienced entrepreneurs. And then we're also now bringing interns in-house annually to learn with us and be makers in training, so that they may learn a skill that can set them up in their working life. And they may also be part of the talent that helps host our skills development programs, our immersions, our hackathons and makeathons, and also create content and mentor to the pre-incubation and incubation programs within the precinct. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's who we are. I think the important thing to kind of, that's a mouthful and a lot, but to bring it all together, I think maybe is just to explain to you and just maybe sketch out how we work. And then that's why I call it an ecosystem approach, is as much as internal community building was really important for us to turn the Makerspace into a non-earning informal entity to a company that has an income, can employ and train people, and also grow our impact, is that we really needed to tap into, and the beauty of being within a university-based incubator is that there is this ecosystem of the precinct, the different academies within the precinct, IBM Research Africa right next door, a whole host of industry funders and partners, our proximity to WITS, and then our proximity or our the availability of getting to research and being able to be a partner to help commercialize research. And then also bringing from our side, bringing the community of grassroots innovators, experts, schools, township innovators. It's amazing when we bring all this talent together and find a way to collaborate and co-create solutions that make sure we're building strong and sustainable digital tech entrepreneurs in Africa. That's really, I guess, why I've stuck it out here, and I've found that this is where I see us making positive impact, and I want to keep supporting this, because this ecosystem approach of working with partners, funders, academic institutions, grassroots talent, experienced talent, those who want to reskill, and other socially minded enterprises, is, I think, what is the beauty and the power of what we have here. And coming from a creative background, that's what I knew. That's how I worked before, in project teams, in collectives, in cooperatives. So it was fantastic for me to find that I could bring that value system into a totally different space, an entrepreneurial development space in a digital tech hub, and help grow and sow that value system of co-creation and collaboration. So yeah, that's us from TMG in Joburg.